Hello, and welcome to another episode of CRT Sound System. And we've got episode 55. My name is Tom, and I'm here as always with Reese. Reese, how are you?
I'm incredible. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Yeah, really excited to talk about this game and its soundtrack in particular. So we've got a returning guest. I think possibly our most returning guest at this point
That's
is Conqy.
terrifying.
Conqy, how are you?
I'm doing great. I just watched The Boy and the Heron with my wife and our family. I'm in a great mood, and I'm about to listen to a, a really good soundtrack. Uh, Probably like one of my favorite, more ambient,
Mm.
relaxing soundtracks out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's yeah, it's a great soundtrack. I really love it. It's Mirror's Edge. So yeah, Conky, do you maybe want to take the people who are listening through what Mirror's Edge is, for those who maybe don't know?
Yeah, Mirror's Edge is a first-person parkour game, which it doesn't sound super exciting when you think about like how many games have like parkour now, uh, like Titanfall was really big on that, and
Mm.
uh, all the Assassin's Creed games, and that other game that everybody plays that's made by the Titanfall devs that I don't remember the name of, the free to play one. I think that's also like a super like parkour.
Apex Legends.
Yeah, Apex
Apex,
Legends
is
I
it?
think is like
Yeah,
super
yeah.
parkour.
There's definitely the movement in Apex Legends is what appeals to
Yeah,
people.
but in the time before time, there wasn't really a whole lot of like super parkour like movement games aside from like I don't know, maybe Prince of Persia.
And
But
Mark Echo's Getting Up is the one I remember.
I haven't thought about that game in a good decade or so. Um,
And this is the game that was hitting when parkour was still kind of like a cool like
yeah,
thing and
I
yeah,
think,
culture.
yeah,
It
just
hadn't
sort
become
of definitely
ubiquitous.
like the tail end of when parkour was cool, I guess. But like, yeah.
yeah. When they had like the parkour intro to the James Bond movie with Daniel Craig. Um,
Mm.
Which ripped.
yeah, which did rip actually. Yeah, Casino Royale.
Yeah. I feel like the parkour era for me ended when the Punisher just fucking blasted a rocket at the parkour guy in Punisher Warzone.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
in one of the best visual gags in any Marvel movie.
I feel like parkour was born. The parkour coolness was born. It had an infancy when Run Lola Run came out. I think
Mm.
there's not a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
there's not any parkour in that, but there was the movement and people were like excited by that, and then culture that
yeah.
sort of like became more and more of a thing
No, Run
Yeah,
until
Lola
the
Run I
Punisher
actually
came
really
out.
like. But yeah,
great movie. Yeah.
yeah. No, I was gonna make a joke about this British MP who does parkour, and that's when it died. But now I can't remember his name. He was the Minister of Health. He was the Minister of Health under Boris Johnson, and he's the guy who killed your nan by like deciding to just let COVID run free in everyone's nursing home, and like everyone's nan got killed by him. And I can't remember his name right now, but I remember
Jesus.
he was like
That
big on.
you know you gotta respect him for staying true. Is that he saw COVID and he's just like, yeah, we're gonna let him parkour through the nursing homes. So you know,
I think maybe the other big one was probably Dying Light.
oh
Oh
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it was, yeah,
absolutely.
that's like the other one. But like, yeah, this definitely sort of started off the sort of the parkour, especially like the first person parkour. Because like first person platforming has always sort of been notoriously difficult to do, right? Um, even going back as far as like the Half-Life games, which had a bunch of platforming, but were often just completely frustrating
yeah.
if you didn't have a good way to sort of situate yourself. So like, um, I
No, I
think they did
still
a good
rage quit
job in
on a rail
this.
whenever I play Half-Life 1 again because it's awful.
Yeah, some of the platforming in Half-Life One is real rough. Or even like stuff like Metroid Prime. I replayed that last year with the remastered version, and um, like they do a good job by just giving you the fucking double jump. Really saves you a lot of hassle and giving you a lot of freedom to move around in the air. But like it's really difficult to get first person platforming right, and like For all the problems Mirror's Edge has, and it has quite a few in terms of the gameplay, I think when you get into a sort of a flow state with the gameplay, um, that's when it sort of really, really shines, and like the soundtrack really adds to that by sort of it never really sort of asserts itself too strongly. Um, but it's always sort of there, and it's really nice and chill for the most part. There's a couple of bits where it gets a little bit more action packed, but like for the most part, the soundtrack is just sort of there as an ambient background noise, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, anytime it starts like, you get the upbeat music when the cops are chasing you and shooting you, and you're like,
Mm.
and you're like, kicking down a door, jumping over a railing, and like watching like all these like light fasteners turn red as you grab them hand over hand before like, jumping through another window. Like you feel so cool when you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're starting the feedback loop for me again, because I hear this and I'm like, I want to play Mirror's Edge, but then I
Yeah.
know that when I boot up Mirror's Edge, my response is going to be, I hate Mirror's Edge. I
Yeah.
don't hate Mirror's Edge, but
Oh no, we've decided. I'm afraid certainly I've decided since you said it last night. I'm like, no, Reese is just going to have to be the hater on the podcast now.
Yeah.
So like,
I listen. I'm
fucking
willing.
union
You're
bitch.
really. You're really. I was honestly considering faking it this whole episode, which goes against my podcast credo. But Mirror's Edge is held in such high regard. I was like, I don't know if I want to open up that can of worms. But now I feel I'm in a safe space to do so.
I will give you this, like when it's frustrating, it can be extremely frustrating. And like when I was playing it on the 360, like back when it came out, I threw my controller a couple of times where I was just like, man, fuck this. What were but but it's like, it like gets you back when it's like because when it's good, it's really, really good, but also when it's
Mm,
bad, it's pretty fucking bad. I'll
yeah.
give you that.
It's. I just feel like you gotta really. I don't know. I am just unable to meet Mirror's Edge where it needs me to be, and I feel like at this point there is an element of needing to connect with the history somewhat as well as the game, which makes me even more disconnected. It created like a crazy shutdown on my computer. First of all, it took like 2 restarts to shake out, which I'm holding against it. And to first off, and I don't know, it's like I watched like a full let's play of somebody in that flow state, and you're just bashing through glass, and you're doing these like wall jumps because there's a guy with a machine gun, and you're kind of like matching that flow to like this crazy like death beam, and it's so cool. And then I play it, and it's just like all this like bright white,
Mm.
with these like pops of color that's like, I don't know, doesn't appeal to me for some reason. And I think
The
it's not
aesthetic
poorly
can
designed.
be, yeah, the aesthetic
It's
can be a
very
little bit tough to take in, I think, at times.
and everything looks the same, like not,
Mm.
there's the inside and outside environments. And that's good because, it helps with the flow state, it helps you with the running around. But it's just
Mm.
stuff like, I don't know. I find it personally, you can say I'm a bad at video games, girl bad at video games, whatever. I don't I don't enjoy working towards that flow state. I don't enjoy like,
Yeah.
trying to figure out the time attack aspect to it. I don't I think that the melee is stuff is like it's just like an
It's
excuse
fiddly.
to it's very fiddly, and I think it always like halts things,
Yeah,
especially
it
when
just
you go into like,
completely
the more,
slows down the momentum of the game every time you have to engage in it.
especially like the boss fights, the when you're fighting, the secret villain at the end and stuff.
Mm.
I just feel like I'm already have these problems with the running, and I'm just like doing this hand to hand combat, and being like, man, I wish I was running right now. And I feel like the animation is it like Ruby makes looks like a $100 billion Disney production compared to the cutscenes
Yeah, the
in Mirror's
cutscenes are
Edge.
not great.
Uh,
So I don't know. That's why I said during the intro that I thought maybe Catalyst might be more my speed, just because it's a bit more streamlined, and it has a few more markers. I don't know. But still has, I think, a lot of the same vibe from what I saw. So I might try Catalyst one day because I want to love it. I want to love it. When I hear people talk about it, I'm just like, damn, this seems great. That sounds like a game I would love. And this is how I felt when the game came out too. Is I saw the pre-release stuff, and I saw people playing it and the ideas, and I was like, this is so fucking cool. I really like and it was like really sort of like cutting edge in the sense of the story and the protagonist. Like now it's not nothing to write home about, but it's this like non-sexualized female character that is trying to save her sister. I thought it was very striking, in that when you first meet up with your sister and she's worried about what's going on, and I think she's been framed, and you just give her a hug.
Yeah.
Like that the fact that you're hugging people, that gamers are hugging people in when Mirror's Edge came out, that was revolutionary.
Yeah.
So
Her sister is unfortunately a cop, so
yeah, yeah.
she's
I
still
mean,
canceled.
Yeah. Overall, this game does not have a great outlook on cops, which is fine.
That's true.
yeah.
And it gives you a lot of opportunities to really take advantage of just like stealing a cop's gun and
Yeah.
then using it.
Yeah.
That's the best part about the melee and the stuff in the game, is that there's this very kind of like finesse aspect
Mm,
to it, where it's just like you're not necessarily trying to be non-lethal, but you'll just like disarm, do a slide kick, do a quick jump to get away, and sometimes you just pull an assault rifle away from a cop and just kill him and his best friend
Yeah.
next to him and throw the gun away, and you're just like, oh shit,
Yeah.
she just murdered two people. They're just not doesn't seem in keeping with the character in the game, but whatever.
no, but you can do it.
But yeah, you could
Yeah.
do it, and it's
And let
rips.
me tell
It's
you, I did it every single time.
yeah, of
There's like not a
course.
single cop survived my playthrough of Mirror's
But
Edge.
like being lethal is actually sort of easier as well because like
Mm.
you're very squishy. Like you can take 2 or 3 hits before you die. So like if you want to do any sort of exploring in any of the levels where you do have to like combat encounters, you pretty much just have to kill everybody to be able to do exploring. And I think that's sort of part of the problem that you've experienced, Reese. I think is that like there's basically two modes of gameplay in this. One is exploring, and the other is actually navigating the space. And
Hmm.
like exploring isn't that great because the spaces are so sort of they're so bland. They're very repetitive. There's not a lot of visually interesting things happening in them, except for like here's the obvious path forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very linear game, which is it's not the same in Catalyst, which so you might actually like that because Catalyst is a bit more like open worldy, like, running around exploring like the same like big general city area and like getting used to it and,
Hmm.
uh sort of like getting a feel for like the map and learning new ways to get between, A to B when you have to like, complete a side mission or something. But whereas, yeah, like the first Mirror's Edge is like it's the first Mirror's Edge is like much more of a puzzle game. If I had to describe it, like a lot of it is like it's a game that was like it's like a puzzle game built for speed running more than anything else. And everything else is kind of secondary to that, which is like fine. Like that's absolutely what Dice was going for, but they kind of like, and I don't know if they did this on purpose with Catalyst, or if it was just like pressure of like, well, everyone's doing open world, we got to do one too. But like that element has changed a lot in Catalyst, which I
Um.
actually liked. But
Yeah, yeah, and I would say too, and I would add this to our parkour games list actually. But like in Doom 2016, there is that aspect of like figuring out the flow, and you're shooting, but still you need to be constantly on the move, and like
yeah,
everything
Hmm.
about that game propels you forward, and that feels great. But I feel like in this game, you feel so good when you do figure out the flow mechanics. It asking you to explore and do that stuff is like when you have to like, oh, let's see what's on top of this air vent here, and you
yeah.
have to
Where's
like
that
press
last yellow
R
backpack?
without memento, and you're like,
Hmm.
and like so slowly like pull yourself up. It just feels miserable.
Yeah, it can be real shitty at times in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I think we'll jump into the first block of tracks here, and then we'll come back and we can talk a little bit more about the game because there's definitely a lot more I want to talk about with the game and with the composer Solar Fields. Um, So the first track I have is called Edge and Flight. And then the second track I have is called Heat. And as mentioned then, they were both composed by Solar Fields. those the way those tracks flow between the like the sort of the softer ambient stuff, and then when it's like getting into to sort of combat and the more amped up stuff is really cool. You did mention Conky, just how like you can really tell where they're like where they put the split points in between it. But it's like I really like that no matter what sort of part of the stage you're in, it still feels like it's part of the same whole. You know.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's like really cool about the game that I really like is the I really like the art direction of Mirror's Edge.
Mm,
I like the level design and like the cool spaces that you end up exploring and like crawling around like a lot of different types of construction site, but they're very well designed and interesting construction sites.
yeah,
I believe in Flight, which was the last one we listened to, that one has you uh, going down like a giant sewer duct into a huge like
that's a
rainwater
very
like
cool
overflow area, and
moment.
it's a really
Yeah.
cool level. There's like there's this really like compelling part that I still think about to this day, where you're just inside this giant massive underground cavern with these like big pillars, and you're like climbing them while these snipers are shooting at you, and you're just like jumping from pillar to pillar, uh, trying to take out these snipers one by one as they're trying to shoot you. It's really cool. And there's a lot of like really interesting like set pieces like that, which Reese talked about also. Like every level in the game has like at least one big interesting set piece that's very memorable from the different levels.
Yeah.
So that for Flight, that's one that like really sticks out to me still.
Yeah, no,
I
they
think that's the best
definitely.
one.
Mm.
In my mind, based on what I saw in kind of watching the Let's Play and what I remember, is I feel like there's either like the ones that really stood out are kind of avoiding the machine gun guy, the crane jump, and
Mm,
the you when you're in that cylinder pit. And the cylinder pit is the most kind of involved long sequence, and it has you kind of like kind of have to do this non-linear thinking about using the pipes to like climb your way down, so you get a pipe to shimmy up, and then you jump across to this thing. And I
mm,
really think it's kind of like the real what you really want out of a game with like parkour, where you're just like totally the master of your environment, and
mm.
like you have the pressure from the sniper guys. And I like it more when it the idea of you're avoiding them, because you can take the sniper rifle and just take them all out, which once again feels like you're just stopping the gameplay to to do it. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna shit on this game too much more.
Mm. No, I mean, like, there's this game is definitely not without its problems, but like when it really gives you those sort of moments, and those those set pieces are sort of really hard to it's really hard to fault them necessarily. If you're able to do them the right way, I suppose. But because of the way the gameplay sort of works, it does sort of it can sometimes encourage you to sort of not do the coolest thing and just sort of take an easy path out of it.
Well, and to in its defense, is that this is the first game that really was doing this.
Yeah.
I think we were still pogging because you could grab onto ledges so well in Prince of Persia. It's and so like you got to give it credit for that they kind of wrote the formula for parkour, and it's going to take some figuring out how to make it perfectly smooth. And all these games can come after, and they know that this works. There's this much more ingrained sense of memory and flow that is going to be good in the game, but they didn't know that was going to be good in the game. And if the game didn't sell, they were probably going to decimate, in the literal Roman sense, the dev team.
I mean,
So
they were gonna do
they
that if
they
it
they
did
had
sell
to
too.
figure out the best they could.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
this is EA. They were going to do that to them regardless. So
Yeah, like like, Dad, where are you taking me? You look down the pit, you see Westwood Studios. You're just like, oh no.
oh no, I'm landing on Bullfrog.
Oh man.
Yeah, so something you mentioned, and I did want to bring it up, Conky, was just the writing on this game. So the game was written by Rhianna Pratchett, who is Terry Pratchett's daughter, which is I think a really really cool sort of aspect of this game. She's mostly written for games, from what I can tell. I didn't actually realize how many games she's written for.
Yeah, she's
Um,
written a ton of them.
yeah, like quite
Like
a
she
few.
did like the new Tomb Raiders too, I believe.
Hmm. But even
Which
going
I
back as far as
Really?
like
yeah.
I love
she. Oh, go ahead.
I,
Sorry.
I I love those. Sorry, not I don't
Mm,
want to not to get on a tangent.
yeah,
I think those are actually great. I know that they've been
and
canceled, but especially
another
Yeah.
Rise of the
bit
Tomb
like
Raider is perfect.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
she
and
did that one. She did the original the 2013 Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider. Uh she's done she did Heavenly Sword, which I actually never played, but I heard that was
that
a
was
very
one of
good
those
game.
early PS3 games where people were
PS3
like,
games,
"No,
yeah.
look, the PS3 has games." That's
Yeah.
the main thing I remember about Heavenly Sword.
I mainly remember a
Because
very long ponytail.
mm-hmm.
Um
um, and the one that I'm just looking at her list here, just the one thing that's jumping out at me is Beyond Divinity.
oh
Um,
yeah.
because like back this is Larian Studios, who everybody loves Larian Studios now that Baldur's Gate 3 is out, but like this is like their second or third game like in the Divinity series. um so I remember playing those as some of the early sort of PC RPGs that I remember playing. I didn't realize that she had actually anything to do with the writing
Oh my god,
She
she
on
did
that.
planted the
beat.
seed for the wokest video game of all time.
Yeah, like
Okay,
it's
okay,
funny
hold
how
on.
Larian Studios have come along so massively since those days.
Okay, can we put a pin in for a future episode, because I see here that she did the writing for Beat Buddy Tales of the Guardians, which is a game that I really really like, and has some really like fantastic music.
Yeah,
All right,
we were just
this is the
complaining
next.
about um we were just complaining about was it Electro Swing in the Discord the other day.
You were just complaining
uh,
about it? Oh
yeah,
shit.
but
Oh,
I do really like the Beat Buddy soundtrack. It's really really fun.
oh
I
yeah.
think is that Para Stellar that does the soundtrack for that, and a couple of other.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
if you
won't go
haven't
down
played
that
Beat
rabbit hole.
Buddy, Reese, definitely go and track that down because I know you like a rhythm game, and it's very cute.
Mm.
I think actually it's just coming out on Switch, actually, isn't it?
Oh, I should pick that up. I need to like
Yeah.
replay that. It's been a while since I played it, but I was
Yeah,
in
it
college
just
when that
came out
came out.
this month on Switch.
Mm.
Yeah, I played it when it came out on PC. I think it was part of like a bundle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I didn't didn't realize that Rhianna Pratchett had done stuff for that as well. Jesus,
Yeah, I didn't realize that that game had a story, to be honest.
it's a very basic story, but you know,
The story is mostly you whack seashells and they make cool sounds. But
not a bad story in fairness.
no, sorry, taking us off on a tangent, but we were talking about Mirror's Edge, and the story of it. So,
Yeah,
Faith spends a lot of time whacking seashells in this too for some reason. What's weird?
but those seashells are cops for some reason.
It's a very woke story. Yeah,
It actually is.
Yeah,
It's a
we
story
were.
about
I
how you can't
appreciate it.
trust cops, um, or pro
Yeah,
wrestlers.
Yeah. Well, Ropeburn wasn't didn't turn until he was entered the corporate world. So pro wrestlers were corrupted
calling
by
yourself
money and cops.
Ropeburn in a in a parkour world just sounds like you're fucking. That's just some real nominative determinism.
Yeah, he's like he's like the anti Jesse Ventura, like who instead of like being like woke and cool is like corrupt and evil.
Mm,
He's
yeah, like I said, that this game is definitely woke, but it's got that weird sort of like the sort of what would you call it? Like when everything in the world is just so cartoonishly evil that it's hard to
yeah.
even like apply that to any real world context.
I mean, not helped by the fact that all the cutscenes are literal cartoons.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that is one thing I kind of like about it is that it's this you get a good feeling about the main character because her name is Faith, right? It
Her
slots
name
in
is Faith, and she
perfectly.
jumps off buildings.
Exactly. And it just feels like, there's the character Icarus, and then there's
Oh,
like your handler Merc. And it just feel I love stuff like that. I
Yeah.
love when a villain is called uh Damien Blackheart.
Sole bad guy.
And but still has just enough charm to make you think that, like, oh well, maybe that's just a name and he won't poison me in the third act. um
That's funny.
Yeah, I wonder if Judas Backstabber can be trusted. He seems pretty nice right now, so
yeah, Baxter, that's just a Dutch name, like, don't it's fine.
it's actually German for for the Bart the.
Oh man. All right. I think we'll probably jump into the next block of tracks. So I've got 3 more to come. So let me pull up my list here. First track is, as mentioned, Ropeburn. So I presume that's Ropeburn's theme, or the level where the level where you actually have to track him down and fight him. Then we've got New Eden, and then Pirandello Kruger. let us talk a little bit about Solar Fields. So we talked a little bit about him in the break, just because Reese is asking if either of us had listened to him. Now I had sort of encountered him in the late 2000s before this game came out, just through his first couple of albums, and it was my friend Johnny. May or may not have mentioned him on the podcast before, but like we were really getting into psytrance and like just general sort of drug music at the time. And he gave me a hard drive filled with like stuff that he downloaded from weird psytrance forums. And like there was like Solar Fields and OTT and all these sort of Psybient artists. But this is one of the ones that sort of that really stuck out to me at the time. This is less sort of psytrancey than what he normally does. But like you can sort of the scope of what he will do in a song is very much the same as you'll see here. So like you'll often have them start off with something really really sort of ambient, and then maybe go into something a little bit more fancy or a little more sort of upbeat. And like across albums as well, he'll sort of experiment with different genres as well. But he's somebody who's music I've been listening to for quite a while, and he's very prolific. Like you can go onto his Spotify page, and there's a ton of albums to listen to. And also, he's Swedish, which I guess is probably handy for people in Dice, seeing as they're all already in Sweden. I don't know if that sort of affected their game, or just because they thought the aesthetic would match. But yeah, he's definitely worth checking out his other music if you like the stuff on this episode.
Yeah, for sure. This is like really the only thing by Solar Fields I know, which I feel like I've missed out because like a lot of other video game composers, I'll go and like listen to their work, and for whatever reason, I never really did that with Solar Fields, and I feel kind of bad about that. Like I should go pick it up because I've had this soundtrack on basically every MP3 capable device I've owned since the game came out, and it's like a soundtrack that I still listen to like you know, every so often.
Yeah. No, it's really good, and I mentioned it myself. Like, is this one of these ones that sort of lives on my sleep playlist just because there's so many nice, relaxing tunes on it?
Yeah. The last bank of tracks we listened to, New Eden, I think is actually my favorite track on the album. Although that is like kind of like that is kind of like one of the less like trancey ones. That is more of like that is one of the more like upbeat like like movement tracks, but I really like that one, and that one pairs well with the level that it comes from, which is running around a mall, getting chased by cops through the Spencers and
Mm.
through the GameStop.
Yeah. No, there's the sort of the more upbeat parts of that are even sort of like in a halftime that's sort of very similar to um to dubstep.
Mm,
Um so like you've got those wonky sort of beats with that sort of are propulsive, but they're not just like a straightforward to the floor. So like there's definitely an interesting sense of rhythm to them, that is that does feel really sort of off tempo, but it really works when it's in the moment. Then as well, it's
yeah.
interesting. It's definitely an interesting choice.
Would you say that this soundtrack was sort of like a real sea change in music? Because like, you look at like a lot of the other stuff, and it feels either very cinematic, like we're gonna do a cinematic orchestra, but on a game, type of thing, or like a lot of hard rock, sort of coming out of the Xbox era. Everything was, if it was electronic, it was more kind of like Half-Lifey. It was a lot harder and more propulsive. And considering the game, like even the the fight tracks, the really high energy tracks, I would say that there's a softness to them that
Mm.
is like there's a delicacy to them that I think felt really fresh at the time. Maybe I'm misremembering. What do you think about that?
No, yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I think this is definitely sort of a sort of path that maybe games didn't necessarily end up going down in a lot of ways, like musically. And I think part of that is the fact that sort of Solar Fields is not really a game composer. You know, like this is in some ways this is a sequel to the Splinter Cell soundtrack episode that we did before, and like by getting somebody whose music has not really been used for composition before, that is more just like doing his own thing, and then was asked to do this. Like I think it creates a bit of a dead end. I can't really imagine any other soundtracks that have sort of taken from this, because like even the games that have sort of like a lot of games, if looking at the list here of like say Titanfall 2, Dying Light, and then like later more recent indie games like Ghost Runner and Neon White, like even their soundtracks, I don't think they've sort of taken that much from what Solar Fields was doing here. Like this to me, I guess, feels a lot like the No Man's Sky soundtrack as well.
Interesting, yeah.
Which was done by, was it 65 Days of Static?
I don't know.
I'm asking Conqy. I think Conqy probably knows.
I actually don't know.
It's
I was also looking up because I was trying to remember the name of the game, but I remembered that like Amon Tobin also did the soundtrack for Infamous, which
yeah, you did mention that in the previous episode. I
'cause,
think
like,
he didn't do all of the tracks, but
yeah, but there weren't like, but yeah, no, I think you're right that like games with soundtracks like this are definitely a rarity. Where I think because like games definitely took that like turn towards trying to be more cinematic, like they like more Uncharted's, I guess, if that makes sense. Where not that that's like anything new, like you had Harry Gregson Williams doing a very like composed like traditional like movie score for Metal Gear 2, right?
yeah,
So like that's not like that's a new trend, but I think that like became the majority of games for a while, at least for
yeah,
like the big AAA games coming out of like like EA, uh, I like not that you could even like think of the music from it, but like I'm sure that like the soundtracks from all the Call of Duty games are like lots of like orchestral like drum marches and shit like that.
yeah.
I won't be looking it up to find out if that's true or not. Don't at me.
Well, they're sort of synth heavy in the
Yeah.
way that sort of modern like movie scores are, because a lot of them I think are a lot of the Call of Duty soundtracks are done by like Hans Zimmer or one of Hans Zimmer's interns. So like it's definitely sort of in the same sort of sonic play field, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas this is sort of off on its own. I double checked. It was 65 Days of Static who did the No Man's Sky soundtrack, which is definitely and a soundtrack I'd love to do in future. But I still haven't played the game. But it's again, it's like they're sort of a band that were selected for their particular style that the team wanted to sort of have as part of the sort of the aesthetic of the game. So it's very hard to sort of to put that in a context outside of the game. Sometimes we try to do that with a lot of the soundtracks that we have, because a lot of the time the composers are sort of jobbers more than anything else. Which isn't, it is obviously not a bad thing. It just means that like
meant in the most complimentary possible way.
Yes,
imaginable.
Whereas like this is sort of slightly different, where a dev team has sort of maybe a sound in mind, and they're going to a particular artist to get that sound, which which doesn't really sort of fit into trends in video game music then, because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it does pair extremely well with the visual aesthetic of the game. Like, to sort of like get into like the aesthetic of the game. It's very stark. Like this like bright gleaming white city with like the thing that gamers hate the most, directional color schemes telling you where to run. In this case, the color red as opposed to yellow, or in my case, dark gray because I'm red green colorblind. But
does it not have any colorblind mode?
No, and many
Oh
games do
dear.
not.
I suppose
Which I
that's
think
a
led to
very
some
modern
frustration.
consideration. Yeah.
I confirm or deny Conky. I've heard Jeff Gerstmann talk is that like color blindness is like the most served like disability function, which makes it amazing that it gets it wrong the most. Also,
It's
um,
it's it's served in the sense like everyone like puts a colorblind mode in because it's easy to implement, but what they always end up doing is creating like a colorblind simulation mode where it's like, oh, well, our colorblind mode just removes the color red, which ironically makes things even worse. Like the worst offender I think for me was the Doom 2016 colorblind mode. Like actually made the game like significantly harder to play, and I ended up disabling it.
Jeez.
The best games with colorblind modes are like weirdly Overwatch is one of them because it just lets you pick whatever color you want for like any UI element where it's like, yeah, make the enemy team whatever color you want, make like your
Mhm.
reticle whatever color you want, whatever works for you. And that's like the best version
Yeah,
of
just
that.
giving you complete freedom to change the colors. Yeah.
yeah, it makes
But
perfect sense.
obviously that's a lot more work though.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to like take us down the like
No, I
colorblind
I
gamer
asked. I
rabbit
took
hole,
us
but
down.
but like with Mirror's Edge, it's like one of the things is like interesting, but also like I feel makes Mirror's Edge kind of dated in a weird way in that it has that very like Banksy street art outlook on
Hmm.
society, you know what I mean? Where it's like, man, there's cameras everywhere and they're always watching you. And the only place there aren't any cameras up on top of the roof next to like your HVAC system. And that's the only place where like your DoorDash guy can like deliver food unmolested by the police. which um which
Weirdly prescient.
yeah, like but it's very much like a like someone saw like like one of the like Banksy spray paint things about security cameras in the UK and was like, this is the deepest shit I've ever seen, let's make a video game about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely the story is woke, but it's also certainly not grounded in anything in any material sense, really. You don't
Yeah.
really get the sense it because you really get the sense that everybody like Faith is only marginally better in reality than everybody else, and Celeste and then all the other characters are just like since we're parkour runners, we're better than everybody. We're
Yeah.
escaping
We're more free.
the yeah the you know um which might be with the character named Icarus might be a commentary, might not. It's hard to tell, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean like Faith has like very like I don't want to be like, bitching about Rihanna Pratchett's writing because again, I do think that like the game actually does have like a good story, but like Faith does
Hmm.
have like the most like generic video game anti-hero personality. Like I don't have time for this. This isn't my fight. I don't want to do this. Oh,
yeah, I
well,
mean
I guess I do care about family after all.
she is writing under EA's tutelage, so
That yeah.
there's
Yeah.
only so much you can do.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also one of those things like just being a video game writer is just like an inherently difficult job because like most of the time you're brought in at the 11th hour. It's like, okay, so we've already designed like a level where you're on a boat and like you almost get eaten by a shark. And so you have to introduce that into the video game. But also there's a part where you're abducted by aliens and that also has to like, fit into the story somehow. So,
Yeah.
do all like I remember reading like an article about like the writer from Uncharted where like the writing was like comes in after the fact like like they figure out
Hmm.
what set pieces they have and then the writer has to like string it all together to a coherent story, which is why
Yeah.
the Uncharted stories are kind of a mess.
Yeah.
And I that's sort of like the feeling I get from this, which is like they had like an aesthetic direction that they wanted to take it, like they had like a vibe that they were going for, which is super consistent, but then the story is kind of all over the place, and it feels like the story was sort of an afterthought. This is me complaining about Mirror's Edge now. But
I think I saw that like Rihanna Pratchett was brought in like a year before the game actually came out.
yeah,
Which in
yeah,
terms
that
of like
doesn't
dev
surprise me.
time has got to be like well close to the end of actually putting the entire game together.
Yeah, when they're all like crunching like 17 hours a day
Yeah.
for a year straight to like get the last couple bugs out so they can finally get laid off and have, a couple months of rest before they're rehired without benefits to work on the next, fucking Battlefield game.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who was contracted by some video game company to write like a big hunk of the main story, but they kept coming back to him, and like the one idea that he put forth that he kind of had ownership through his agent was that this like proprietary software that could find anybody on Earth called the Seeker or something like that, which is not like the most wild idea.
Person of interest. You're gonna
Oh,
steal that from
exactly.
person of interest.
Exactly. Well, this was like 2004.
Okay.
And but that they were fixated on that so much that like they would come, he would write a bunch of stuff for them, and then they would come back like 3 months later, and they're just like, okay, now this takes place entirely in front of in a building, and is not like global spanning, and you need to fight a boss on every floor of the building, and he would just be like, okay, let's write this. And they would just be like, oh, well, now we think the Seeker should be, in the White House, and they're doing this, and he would just like write a whole new story every time, and he was like,
Yeah.
I do not, they do not like or understand anything except for that one central idea.
Yeah.
So it is very much just like the people who are demanding things of writers are absolute morons, of course.
Yeah.
And
Of
the
course,
writers are
yeah.
perfect angel babies.
Yeah. No, I agree. Every writer you've ever met is a good person, and every
Yeah.
the head of every game studio is currently
This-
sexually harassing like one of his underlings.
Is this your
as we
official
speak.
endorsement of Neil Gaiman?
I'm endorsing Neil Gaiman. Conqy is endorsing J.K. Rowling.
Neil Gaiman, the only local like Boston celebrity that I have not actually seen in person. Like everyone else I know has like seen him and like wandering around Cambridge,
Probably
but I
because he
haven't
was
seen him.
stalking them.
Almost certainly. I do know a bunch of old goths from Cambridge who were like in Cambridge in like the 90s who all have stories about like what a huge asshole like the Dresden Dolls were to everyone, which doesn't surprise me one fucking bit. But
I
that's
feel
like
that's a common story with the Dresden Dolls as well. Yeah.
yeah.
There.
Anyway, but yeah, so I feel like with regards to the writing, like that's like the one element of the game that I feel like doesn't hold together, and like it doesn't really like fit in with the aesthetic of everything else, because it's sort of like as with like every video game ever, it's like kind of an afterthought. Whereas like the music and like the visual design and flow of the game, like those were all like very much like core aspects of the game, and those work really well as a result.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing you brought mentioning that J.K. Rowling there just got me thinking about transphobia. And I just remembered.
Why is that? Does her reach go to Ireland? Can she sue you? But you should be careful.
Probably, yeah. I don't know.
Very brave of you then.
Fuck her if she can anyway. Fucking find me, you bitch.
That's the official motto of the pod. We put that on the tin.
Yeah. But no, it just got me thinking there. The specifically about Mirror's Edge and its role in combating transphobia. Because I remember it was a Mirror's Edge video that H Bomber Guy did initially, about like speed running and why he likes speed running so much that caused him to do that Donkey Kong stream. And it was like it was the Mirror's Edge video that started off the Donkey Kong stream that ended up pissing off every transphobe in England.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Mirror's Edge, we thank you. The wokeness
thank you for your
ripples.
service, Mirror's Edge.
There is wokeness for those who have the eyes to see.
I can't think of anything good to add, so just pretend I made a really funny joke about mold growing in JK's walls. Unlike the gleaming, perfect white walls of Mirror's Edge, JK Rowling's lives in Asmongold's gamer dungeon.
100%. They're connected through like mushroom roots.
Yeah, they're both like hooked into the same world tree from like James Cameron's Avatar, but like but it's just like
Just a giant
mold.
fungus.
Yeah, yeah, a giant like spot of black mold at the center of the Earth's core that connects both of them and tells them to be transphobic.
100%. Essentially, the frenzied flame has, I'm sure some sort of mushroom or something that connects them together.
Uh,
Uh, all right. Well, with that, I think we'll jump into the last block of tracks. So just three more here to go. I have Boat, I have Kate, and I have Shard.
Is it true there is a place in a helicopter where if you drop kick it, it will explode?
That's true.
Yeah. And he just happened to drop kick the
Yeah.
bad guy right through
Yeah. You quick time evented him so hard that like
Yeah.
his helicopter exploded.
it. Oh, yeah, no, that's that last track I love, but the one you mentioned was it was Shar that you mentioned being one of your favorites as well, which is that last track. And I really like Kate's track as well. Like just the way it sort of starts off a lot more energetic than most of these do, and then sort of slows down as you get towards the end. Because I think that's one of those stages where they just sort of drop you in, sort of already in combat, and you have to sort of start off by like dealing with a bunch of cops. And I was laughing because you mentioned how the plot of the game basically just turns into what if the cops could do parkour also?
Yeah, the cops have like they're training Officer McMurphy, this like, middle-aged dude who's like, 280 pounds. He's gonna learn parkour and he's gonna like beat the shit out of your DoorDash delivery guy on the roof of your building next to the HVAC system. That's like the plot of Mirror's Edge. That's like the big twist.
That's like the height of the kind of like emotional turn, right? Is like Celeste's betrayal. You're fighting the masked parkour cop. And you're just like
Yeah.
Celeste, and she's just like, "Yeah, I'm leaving all this behind by teaching cops the parkour." I believe that's
I'm
how that's the through line.
Yeah, I mean, I will say your friend talking to the cops is a huge betrayal, no matter what industry you're working in, whether it's, DoorDash parkour driver or like, like weed salesman or whatever, like, if you find your friends talking to the cops, like the friendship's over.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah,
At least until somebody drop kicks one of your friends through a helicopter.
yeah. Well, while we were listening to that last track, I was watching the ending cutscene of the game and like watching Jackknife's super villain story arc. Like, um,
Yeah.
yeah, his super villain rant where he's like, Faith, if you'd ever read The Art of War, you would know that like defeating parkour Deliveroo drivers is the one way that we can attain complete control over the city, but you're too stupid to realize it because you care about family and not money. Like the writing's great. And then you like one thing I'll say before I take your sister away forever is you'll never ever drop kick my helicopter. Okay, goodbye. And then you quick time event him to death.
Yeah, a lot of games like this really struggle, I think, with boss fights because
Yeah,
they're just
the
like
gameplay's kind of antithetical to
they feel
it.
the need to have them, but yeah,
But there's got to be a guy at the end of the level for you to
because
beat, right? And it's like, well, not necessarily.
yeah, you got to beat the guy at the end of the
Um,
level. And like I say, it is a problem a lot with the combat in this game because basically mostly involves like running up to whoever it is, waiting for the quick time event,
yeah.
and then just pressing the button. And it's as mentioned, it does sort of ruin the flow of gameplay every time you have to go
Hmm.
into a
Yeah,
combat
it's a lot better in
sequence.
Catalyst because you sort of like learn these like different combos for like, dealing with cops and other baddies where it's like, okay, this person like needs to be taken down in this way. And it's a lot closer to like, I would almost say it's closer to
Mm,
like Batman Arkham Asylum in that like there's like, cops with shields or, cops with, stun guns or whatever. And like you have to like disarm them in different ways. And like, so Catalyst kind of like gets around that a
yeah,
bit. It's still kind of clunky because it's first person, but it's like it's better considered, I feel like, in
yeah.
Catalyst.
Hmm.
Mm. No, definitely, yeah. Like, say, I have my issues with Catalyst, but it definitely improves a lot of the gameplay elements and the sort of the controls are a lot better, and the free running is definitely a lot better. Um, One other version of the game I always want to mention because it's actually the first version I played and I really enjoyed it, which is why I ended up playing the main game. Was the mobile version. Um, which no longer exists. I don't think you can play it on anything. Probably listed, but I had
Oh
it
my
on my
god.
Oh
Windows
hell
phone.
yes. Oh, awesome.
Like oh my god, like your fucking like Nokia with the Windows
I had a
yeah,
Lumia
with like
900.
with the Metro UI on it that
Yeah. I loved the Windows phone. I still think it's the best
yeah,
phone
it was
UI,
really
but
good. Unfortunately,
um,
everybody hated it because they tried to make it the
sadly dead.
desktop UI as well.
Yeah, they tried to make it the UI for everything.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But for phones, I loved it. But yeah, the the mobile version is basically just like a sort of a side-scrolling, sort of like somewhere between like a free running, like an endless runner type thing, and like a Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
So like your faith more or less just runs along on her own, and then you have to like tap
Yeah.
up and down to do like jumps or slide under things like that. And it's a really fun little game, and unlike a lot of sort of endless runners, it doesn't constantly bug you with currencies
Well,
and stuff
how
like
will I know
that.
I'm making progress if my
It's
character's
just
not
like
constantly running through a stream of different colored coins that I must
Yeah,
collect?
that's a great question, Conqy. Owned, Tom. The game sounds terrible. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, it's and again, it's like only a couple of hours long. It's you can sort of beat in an evening, which I did. But yeah, definitely a game I really enjoyed playing. And nobody will ever
There's
be able
gotta
to play it again because
there's
it
gotta be
preserves
some like
phone
side
games.
loader out there. There's gotta be someone who's like hosting the APK so you can like side load it onto an Android. I'm gonna look for that
Yeah,
now.
more
I'm
than
actually gonna see if
likely.
I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
get that on my phone, get it running.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely worth playing if you can get it working. It's like it. It's a neat little game. But yeah, I think with that we can start to finish things up. Conqy, thank you again for joining us. Have you any plug or
For
anything of
once
the
I do
sort?
actually. Yeah, I was on a recent episode of
Oh,
Reese's
excellent.
podcast.
Yeah, and
I just did the work.
I'm
Oh, yes.
gonna put everything into making sure I edit it in the next 3 months before this episode comes out.
Well, this episode isn't
Yeah,
coming out
don't
until
worry about it.
October, so
Yeah, yeah.
you've got time.
Yeah, it is currently like well, I wanted to make a joke that we're recording this on 9/11, but unfortunately we're not. Which would have been great. But yeah, so it's
9/11 was a tragedy. It's not.
9/11, yeah. So
It's just the official position of this podcast for anybody listening is that 9/11 was
yeah,
bad.
it was
Thank you.
bad. George,
And it's not funny to make jokes about it. Don't make any jokes
we
about
all agree that
9/11.
George W. Bush shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, agreed.
Uh,
It was not funny when George W.
Anyway, sorry,
Bush
Conqy.
tripped on someone else's dick and landed
Yeah.
face first into the 9/11 button.
yeah, when he like slipped on a giant banana peel and like in Logan Airport and like launched those two planes. And when it was especially like sad that he made the whoop 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 whoop.
And prevented
Yeah.
Marky Mark from getting on the planes.
No, it wasn't Marky Mark. It was Seth MacFarlane. Remember?
Yeah, the
Oh, Seth MacFarlane.
the leader of the Hollywood Illuminati.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody talks about how
Yeah.
like Seth MacFarlane was calling people on 9/11, telling them like, don't go to work today. All the Seth MacFarlanes stayed home from work on 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11 was Seth MacFarlane consolidating power. He'd be
Yeah.
like 9/12. He's just like, now you owe me. Now
I just think it's very suspicious that every single person who worked on Family Guy like stayed home that day. It's just like it's just curious. I'm not alleging anything. I'm just
Just
pointing out some
I don't know
concurrent
how we
facts.
got on this topic. We were talking about
I don't know either. Sorry. We're talking plugs, so we check out 9/11, everybody.
Yeah, another thing I'm very proud of doing. No, episode of Existential Warfare where we talk about 3D printing, where I made Reese watch a documentary called Print the Legend, and then I didn't watch it because I was like, I probably remember that movie, and then I didn't at all, and Reese was asking me questions, and she was like, "Hey, wasn't it interesting when this thing happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." um, so we talk
Just
about
fun.
3D printing, and I tell everyone how to 3D print a gun. So listen to that. Yeah,
Detailed
it's like how to blow up
instructions.
a pipeline, but it's how to 3D print an AK-47.
No,
No,
it's really funny. Okay, I'm going to give the spoiler here. Is that I bring up the question of guns, and Conky is just like, it's just easier to buy a gun. Just buy a gun.
the,
Just purchase a
listen,
weapon. Like
Reese and I
that's
both live in America, and it's just like if you live in the United States, like why would
Yeah.
you risk blowing your fucking hand off printing a gun? Just go buy one. They sell them at like the CVS. Like they'll sell them to your toddler. They don't give a shit here. Just like, I meet so many people that are like,
Yeah,
I need to make a
that
ghost gun
makes
so the
sense.
government can't track my gun. It's like, do you think the government has any idea who owns a gun? They have no fucking clue. This is the gun.
You've been
Like
lied to by
genuinely, like you've
propaganda,
watched.
like that they
Yeah,
can
you've
find
been
out any
watching like
information.
CSI where they're like doing like incredible like bullet analysis where like every single like bullet is imprinted with a QR code that like gives your name, address, and social security number. But like the reality is like at one point like the ATF's actual
They
th-
only care about that if you like throw a bottle of water
yeah,
at a
like
cop at a
yeah,
protest.
at one point
Like then they will track your ass down
uh
based on a fucking like, six
yeah,
pixels
no, like
on a
at one
picture.
point the
Like
ATF's actual plan for like figuring out like how guns were getting into the hands of criminals was to just give away a bunch of guns and see which of them showed up at crime scenes. Like that was an
oh
actual plan that they had
that
at one
that
point.
rips. It's so good. That's so smart.
that's so good.
So
I love
like
Now
it.
we just need to teach them parkour.
Our brave
Um,
boys.
and they can run at the criminals and grab the gun at just the right moment when it flashes red.
yeah. Yeah,
When
yeah,
it flashes red
yeah.
for them.
So,
Yeah.
if you see a cop in a helicopter, just fucking quick time event him out of it. It's fine. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah. If you want to check me out, I'll be on the roof of the tallest building in Boston, which is the Hancock Building. Don't think about the name too much. Where I will be jumping off of it and into a helicopter to kick my arch rival out of it. That's what that's what I'll be up to after this
Dick.
podcast.
Very cool. I'll put that in the show notes. Reese, what do you got
Video
going
games
on?
are the worst thing on earth. A podcast about being leftist, about game politics and news and culture, and just talking about Mark Kern, what fucking that dog shit ape has gotten up to. And
Fuck that
also, I have
guy.
Existential Warfare,
Yeah.
which is my personal podcast. I just recorded an episode with Conky where we went quite long just discussing it. So if you would like to also check out me being mentally ill on the internet, you can follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky at Reese V Rider. But you really shouldn't do that.
And you recently restructured the Vigato
Oh yeah, that's
Patreon, I
right.
believe.
We now well we're producing a bit more
Yeah.
content. And so it's
Yeah,
now $3 a month, and we have a $10 a month Conky tier where we
yeah,
mention Conky's name at the end of every episode. And we could mention other people's name, but it's
yeah.
right now only Conky is signed up.
Yeah,
Lucy is
I
signed
would.
up as well, but it's funny to think of it as the Conky tier.
It's really weird that you introduced a live organ tier where you can just donate like one of your organs. That's not many Patreons do that, but I was happy to like get rid of my other kidney. I don't have any of them anymore, but
No,
anything
I
for the
mean
Patreon.
we didn't even use it. I just we got it just in case. It's
Yeah,
in
it's just in your fridge.
It's
Oh,
just in the
I
freezer.
need to refrigerate that. Ooh, okay. That's been just on top on my monitor. So
Okay, so you can probably save it if you put it in a marinade or something. Like,
cool,
no one
awesome.
will know.
Awesome. All right. And as for ourselves, yeah, found at patreon.com/CRT Sound System. If you want to join up there, you can get these episodes in a higher bit rate, along with some bonus episodes that are too hot for Spotify. You can follow me at 4push on pretty much just on Blue Sky. And yeah, we have a Discord. Link for the Discord is in the show notes. If you want to come and hang out and talk about video game music, or indeed anything else, come and hang out
if
with
you
us.
write
And
if you write video
want to
game
come
music,
on the
come and
show,
post it in our Discord, and people will listen to it and go, "That rips.
Yeah.
That's really cool."
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, if you want to come on the show and talk about any video game soundtrack you like, let me or Reese know.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
would love to have you on.
Yeah, we're still waiting. We need somebody to do Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yeah, I really want somebody to do Tokyo Mirage Sessions, because I want to do like a full month of like Shin Megami Tensei episodes. We got to talk about the Vagina Bones game.
I got a lot to say about Vagina Bones.
It's imperative.
So
There's too many of them, folks. Get rid of those things.
That's right.
All right, so thank you so much again, Conqy. Thank you, Reese. So we're going to go out with the last track, which is called Still Alive, and it's not the Still Alive you're thinking of. And this one was not actually composed by Solar Fields. It's written by Lisa Miskovsky, along with some other songwriters whose names I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. Actually looking at her, she's co-written a bunch of like Backstreet Boys tracks and stuff, which is like working with a lot of the Swedish songwriters that sort of populate pop music is sort of an interesting side project for this lady. But yeah, so the track, as I said, is called Still Alive. Is very different as a vocal sort of acoustic track, and it's just a nice little track to go out on. So yeah, thank you again, Conqy, and thank you, Reese.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening. Good night.
Just like you, just like you.